Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
The Innovative Thinkers episode number 145, The Innovative Thinkers. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. THC, CBD, cold brew coffee, beer, wine, fruit juice, topicals, and the more. We call this the intersection of innovation and cannabis technology. And right in the middle of it all is our guest, Austin Stevenson, Vice President of Product and Innovation for Vertosa, formerly Natagen, is here to talk to us about this innovative and cannabis technology and the whole business of cannabis. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you, Dr. Frances. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, I have given our audience such a brief bio about you. Why don't you fill in the blanks and share with us what you'd like us to know about you and the business that you're working in?
Certainly. My name is Austin Stevenson. I'm the head of product. I'm vice president of product and innovation at Vertosa Labs, where we infuse cannabis beverages, topicals, ingestibles, the like. I've been in the cannabis business and industry for the past 5 years. I have started a CPG company, built laboratories, and have multiple holdings across the supply chain. I love everything products related. I started my career in microfinance. I evolved that career to software, and I really dove into cannabis after a visit to Africa, where I saw people cultivating green leafy vegetables in the middle of the Kalahari Desert. And at that time, I was at the MIT Innovation Lab, and I thought it was amazing to see vertical farming take off in Africa. I came back home, I did my homework, and I found that the industry that was really moving vertical farming forward was cannabis. So took a small exit for myself from the software company and dove into cannabis and have been here 5 years to date and infusing the world.
Austin, talk to the person in the audience that's like, what is vertical farming?
Yeah, so vertical farming is literally what it sounds like. It is farming in a vertical pattern instead of horizontal, typically indoors versus outdoors. So imagine a warehouse where you see racks and racks and racks of lights, that under those lights there are all type of plants. So whether it be your microgreens like cilantro and parsley, or it be cannabis, you have the opportunity to cultivate, natural green plants inside and indoors through these, different new and innovative light technologies like LEDs and double-ended high-pressure sodium type of lights.
Talk about your why, Austin. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so my why is really to create impact. Like many others, I saw a great opportunity in the burgeoning cannabis industry. I saw this as an opportunity very similar to the Prohibition era in the 20th century, to be a part of something that was going to be really, really big. I also saw cannabis as an intersect between social entrepreneurism and community impact. The Black community as a whole has been negatively impacted by the war on drugs. Our communities have been separated and divided, and I saw cannabis as an opportunity to bring these communities together and shine a new light on cannabis as being something very positive and impactful. And the products that we create do just that. We are helping to alleviate some of the top 3 problems that people are turning to cannabis for, and that's pain, stress, and sleep. Ultimately helping many people, get over traumas or reduce stress or reduce pain and just generally live a better quality of life. And so that's really why I'm here in cannabis, is to create impact for the Black community, the communities at large that are around me, and really provide better quality of life for the products that we create.
And, thank you for that, Austin. One topic that I definitely want you to talk about is the opportunities and experience of Black entrepreneurs and business people in the emerging cannabis industry.
Yeah, so that question is you can cover many, many different facets. When people hear the cannabis industry, they think of dispensaries, retail, or they think of cultivation. And speaking to the Black entrepreneur, there are so many other opportunities outside of cultivation and retail that can really drive innovation and create impact. The supply chain is large. Getting from seed to sell, there's a lot of players in the middle. And where I found the most advantageous, most creative, and most innovative opportunities is right there in the middle. From the cultivation, you have to go through a harvest. There's opportunities in extraction. Extraction is what ultimately takes the cannabis plants and turns it into a cannabis oil. And it's that cannabis oils that can be used to create so many different products. So the way that we look at the industry is there's traditional inhalable flower, so the cannabis that you're most specifically familiar with. There's inhalable vape cartridges, which we all know what's going on there. And then there's everything else. And where we play at Vertosa is in that everything else. It's all the non-inhalable products. It's your beverages, it's your tablets, it's your gels, it's your creams. It's all the type of products that are a lot more approachable because you don't need to smoke anything. It really kind of starts with that cannabis oil and using different sciences, like we use different chemistries, to be able to take that oil and put it into different delivery mechanisms, like a beverage or a topical.
And how is that going over? I know California is pretty liberal and innovative and cutting edge in so many areas of, from social justice to whatever. California is on the forefront of that. So how is the infused, and I don't know if that's the correct term, so correct me if I say anything that is not correct, in terms of infusing drinks, beverages with the cannabis oils?
Yeah, that's exactly the right term. It's infused. In the traditional CPG, so consumer packaged goods or consumer product goods, they typically say if it passes in California, it can pass anywhere. And that's because in California it has some of the most stringent regulations in terms of food systems, supply chain, and really just quality products. California is America's salad bowl. I think the figure was something like greater than 90% of all of our fruits and vegetables are coming out of California, with Florida being a distant second. In the infused cannabis beverage space, there is a delineation. There are two separate markets that are kind of running side by side. There's the hemp market, which, because of the U.S. Farm Bill in 2018 passing, permits hemp-related products to be accessible nationally and internationally. And then there's the marijuana industry, and that is products that are high in THC versus CBD, which is predominantly found in hemp. And so there's a clear path to market in California for infused products that contain THC. It is a very defined marketplace. There are beverages, there are confectionaries, there are baked goods, and there are clear testing requirements and parameters in California to bring those products to market. On the hemp side, it's a little less refined. It's a little bit more convoluted. Currently, right now, California is looking at legislation in AB 228 to find a pathway for hemp-related oils and products to find themselves on retailer shelves. And kind of federally, you kind of look at the entire landscape. We're able to infuse products like this from Vita Coco and provide that more nationally and internationally. But this product cannot live on a California dispensary shelves, and that's because of regulation. Being an entrepreneur in this space, it requires navigating the regulated channel and knowing the markets that you're serving so that you can bring to life products that are number one, compliant, and then also products that are going to create great impact. So It's a hustle and a struggle every single day, but when you see those products come to life, and you see them at a retailer shelf, and you see a consumer walk in a dispensary and pick up a THC-infused beverage, or walk into a Sprouts and pick up a CBD-infused product, then that's when all the reward is had, because you say to yourself, I helped create that.
So where are your products at? How do people get the products that your company is manufacturing?
Yeah, so from our side, it's a little different than most. We are not a consumer-facing brand. And so that goes back to your question about opportunities in the cannabis industry for Black entrepreneurs. Look at the entire supply chain. We are, at Vertosa, we are a B2B active ingredient provider. So we empower brands like Body Cocoa, like Tinley, like Somatic, like all these other products with the active ingredient. We are your intel inside. So a brand will come to us and say, we have a beverage concept. It's a sparkling lemon coconut water. We want to infuse that. So what we do is we provide the ingredient, just like you would do, sugar or protein or B12 or caffeine for our other products. We provide the cannabinoids. So we take a cannabis oil, we take it through a scientific process called emulsification, and we create a compatible ingredient beverage manufacturers like Vita Coco can infuse in their beverage. And so their products, are available direct to consumer. Their products are available in traditional retailers in the UK, soon to be available in retailers here in the US. Clients that we work with on the marijuana side, the high THC products, you'll find those at like Tinley and Somatic coffees. You'll find those at the traditional, you can say that in California, but the traditional dispensaries. So you go to San Francisco, you go to LA, you find and identify these brands that are ultimately, we're providing the infusion for, and that's how you taste our product.
We'd love to know what you think. Feel free to drop us an email at fr@francisrichards.com. That's fr@francisrichards.com. And one of the things, Austin, you talked about is look at the supply chain for someone that's saying, okay, this is a constantly on a steady climb. The THC, the hemp industry, cannabis industry is exploding to a $20 billion industry. And someone's listening and they say, I want to get in. How do they find out where they fit in to get in? And I understand to gain entrance into that market, it takes a lot of capital and cash. Talk about that.
Yeah, so, you're right. There are many barriers to entry. Capital is always a constraint when entering a new burgeoning market or really any market that is. So if you're looking to, as an entrepreneur, start a business, being well capitalized is critical. And that's really a function of your ability to fundraise and your ability to your concept and attract funds that are going to help resource you to execute on that idea. In the cannabis industry, looking at the supply chain, it goes well beyond just cultivation or retail. You have extraction, you have distribution, you have basically market resources, you have analytics, traditional POS systems, right? There's a myriad of different opportunities. And so when I say look at the supply chain, it really addresses the entrepreneur and says, okay, what are you good at today? There's a term that we use all the time, which is called cross-pollination. Cannabis industry is picking up fast and it's accelerating because people are coming from other industries to give in.
Austin, I'm going to stop you for a second.
The cannabis industry. There's drink manufacturer, infused drink manufacturer out of Atlanta, run by a group of brothers that come from Coca-Cola, and they were distributors and they're product innovators at Coca-Cola. And they said, hey, we have all this knowledge on how to create a beverage. let's go ahead and make one for our community. Let's have one that speaks to us as Black men and women. And so they took that knowledge and they said, you know what? No one else is doing it, so we're going to do it. And that's what they're doing. They took that knowledge. They came to the cannabis industry. They said, we know how to create a beverage, but we don't know how to infuse that beverage. So they started asking questions, and they ultimately found us. And we're now working with them collaboratively to take some of our technology and infuse their beverage and make it scale up. And the same things for others. I mean, I have folks that come from traditional distributors. I have folks that come from traditional, analytical chemistry laboratories, and they say, how do we get in this business? And I say, guess what? There's 5 new distributors that are open up. There could be an opportunity for you to either invest in those distributors, invest in an existing, Black-owned license holder, or, invest your time and your knowledge and become an advisor to one of these existing Black-owned businesses that are here in California and other regulated states. I mean, that's how I really got started. I said, I want to invest my time and my energy in learning and applying some of my resources to existing businesses. So I just became an advisor, and that ultimately led me down a path of exploring different companies until I found one that was right for me, and I invested more of my time in network. So I think that to any entrepreneur that has kind of cut their teeth in other industries, there's an opportunity to cross-pollinate, ask questions, from the folks that you interact with that are in the cannabis industry, explore this supply chain and find where your talents are best fitted. And, if you don't necessarily have the capital to make an equity investment, invest your time, become an advisor. There's other ways to add value besides just money. And there's no more valued resource than your time and the knowledge that you've built over time to apply it to this fast-growing, fast-paced industry.
Austin, what is the one impact you want this interview to give to our audience?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that cannabis has such a prolific opportunity to really change and destigmatize what it once was. It's been stigmatized to know that it has so much harm, but the opportunity moving forward is to really create new vehicles for better quality of life. And it's our responsibility as Black and brown entrepreneurs to be that shepherd that's going to change that narrative. What once broke our communities apart can bring our communities together, but it takes a village. And so if you have an idea, if you have a concept, run with it. Ask your brothers, your sisters, your family, your friends to take part of it. Don't be scared of it. Don't let the stigma be in your way. Overcome that quickly, because there are people that look like you and me that are doing it today, and they're asking for help. And if you have some value to add, provide that, because we need more of us in this industry building products and companies that are going to bring others with us, because the ships are rising, the tide is rising, and those ships are rising alongside it. So the question becomes, who's going to be on that ship with you? And we have that opportunity today.
Austin, someone's listening to the interview and they're saying, wow, I really like what Austin's saying. I want to get into cannabis, hemp, CBD. From your knowledge and your expertise today, what would you tell them to do? Where should they start?
Yeah, I always say start by doing your homework. Look at companies or products that you may be using today. I think that the best entrepreneurs are the people that are solving problems that affect them. To me, I had a mother and a grandmother that were looking for pain management, and they really didn't want to smoke, and they wanted something specifically for the rheumatoid arthritis. So I started to investigate all the different pain creams that are out there. Luckily, at the time, I was head of a third-party analytical laboratory, so I was testing products as well. and having them test them. And I found a gap in that. Honestly, a lot of the pain creams weren't working. So then I asked, well, why not? Why has this problem not been solved? And I learned that is mainly because of the ingredient type, or really the infusion type. So we sought after a solution for that. And that's what kind of have helped lead to, what we're doing here at Vertosa is providing the best delivery mechanisms of cannabinoids. Look at the products you're using today. Look at the pain. Look at the problems that you're that you're faced with today, and see if there's an opportunity to get creative and align product with problem and create something new, or if there's a company that is solving that problem and it really aligns with your mission and your own personal values, then just reach out. I mean, so many of these cannabis companies are hiring and looking for talent, but they're doing 1,000,001 things, and they're not always going to reach out to you. So be proactive and say, hey, I like what you're doing. Pick up the phone. I like what you're doing. Send an email. Really interested in your company. Is there a way? Are you hiring, or is there a way that I can, contribute? Here's my back. All business is people making decisions that impact other people. Humanize the approach, reach out, ask questions, and start to go on that journey yourself.
Talk about your mom and your grandmother, and how did they embrace or accept or engage with the infused products? Were they open right away, or did they have reservations, or because their amazing son was bringing solutions, they were just all on board?
Yeah, mom, grandma, dad, family generally, there's always a little bit of reservations because of the stigma of cannabis, right? Especially in Black and brown communities. For myself, I was the first generation to go to college and graduate to college. I set my bar high. I was focused on leaving St. Louis and going to New York, and I wanted to go to Ivy League, so I had one choice, and that was Columbia. I got in academically and graduated and went into the traditional world of finance and went on to grad school and did what I was supposed to do. Then all of a sudden I go to Africa and I want to dive into cannabis. And they're like, hold on now, we spent all this money, made all these sacrifices to cut all these student loans, and you're going to go sell weed? So, that was definitely a hurdle to overcome. And I had to educate them first and identify that, it's not just weed. I'm taking to that next level. I'm adding a layer of science and creating, new opportunities for folks to enjoy cannabis and all its potential therapeutic benefit between pain, stress, and sleep. And they were affected by pain, rheumatoid arthritis specifically. My mom was a firefighter, first of 9 Black women firefighters in St. Louis. She had to retire because of injury on the job, and she's been dealing with chronic pain in her shoulders and in her hands. And she was using all type of pain relief creams, and they just weren't working. Same with my grandmother. I mean, she suffers rheumatoid arthritis. She's, dealing with numbing pain every single day, unable to sleep. And so I said, hey, instead of taking that pharmaceutical drug or, trying this cannabis product, it's a little bit more natural, a little bit more holistic. Just try it. And they trust me. So after some education on why and kind of what the similarities are and what the effect's going to be, they were very open. They embraced it. And, luckily I have such a supportive family that just says, Austin, we trust you. We know you're going to make the right decision. And now I've kind of become I'm not a doctor, but I've kind of become the resource for all things cannabis related in our family, and it's been amazing. Now my uncles are asking, my aunties are asking for products that kind of affect some of the problems that they deal with, and it's become a really beautiful, loving embrace of everything that we do with my family.
So Austin, the cannabis expert.
Yeah, something like that.
Ask Austin,
yeah.
Everything cannabis. So with them being in different states and the recommendation that you're giving them, is the product available for them? How does that work?
So I'm primarily sending them hemp derived CBD products. So, many of those products you can buy direct online and have it shipped, directly to your home. I do believe that it requires, the full spectrum of different cannabinoids to really have some true efficacy. I think high concentrate for pain, specifically high concentrations of CBD with a little bit of THC is necessary. My mom was living in Florida at the time, so she had some access to medical grade products. My nana in Missouri just recently got access to some medical grade products because, Missouri just went medical. So we've had to really wait out a lot of the regulation for that to catch up so they have access to it. And that's what, you're kind of touching on that point is challenges and continuity, our product continuity. You see it in the traditional CPG world. The Coca-Cola you drink in California is going to be the same Coca-Cola that you drink in Missouri, same Coca-Cola you drink in New York. That's challenging in the cannabis space right now because the market is fractured and fragmented state by state. There are some brands that have successfully, recreated their brand through really stringent SOPs in California and Colorado, but it's still nowhere near accessible in states like Missouri and Georgia and Mississippi. It's just not there yet. So that will continue to be a challenge for us until we do federalize and break down those state borders, which are creating barriers for the movement of product today. But that's probably going to be some time.
Let's talk about, because I want the audience to be very clear, talk about the founder of your company, owner of the company. So Austin is coming to us as a thought leader, innovative thinker, vice president of the company that he's working for. So talk about the founder and what made you personally, because you were on your own journey, building your own business. Talk about that shift. What was it about the founder that you were just like, I want to go on board with you?
Yeah, so, our founder and chief science officer, Dr. Harold Han, is a Chinese immigrant that migrated here to receive his PhD in kaleidic chemistry, which is surface chemistry, from NYU. And he was brought to me by our other partner and CEO, Ben Larson, who is the managing director of the Gateway Accelerator, which I actually leased a co-working space from Ben to launch a CPG product company here in Oakland, California, many years ago. And so it was the three of us at the start where Ben introduced me to Harold over an infused drink and dinner about a year ago. And it was at that meeting where Harold shared with me that he first consumed cannabis 5 years ago in New York. Very much like it is here in the U.S., cannabis is highly stigmatized in China, to many respects even worse. But he smoked his first joint 5 years ago, had a very positive response to it, and said, wow, how do I take what I know and apply it to this industry? So similar to what we were discussing earlier in the conversation about cross-pollination. How do I take my knowledge base and apply it to this new burgeoning industry? And so he sought out advisorship. He found the Gateway Accelerator. He found Ben. He starts showing up to events. It was that proactivity that I learned about that I said, wow, this guy's proactive. He's going to go get stuff done. So he reached out to Ben, started a dialogue, started asking questions, and said, hey, I basically take oils and turn them into water dispersible ingredients. Is there any opportunity to work in cannabis here? And Ben's response was, yes, absolutely. There's a huge problem in infused products, specifically beverages. A lot of them are failing laboratory tests because the potency is off, and a whole bunch of other issues. So can you apply your science to cannabis oils? Harold said, yes, let's try it out. And then he went through that story, he created a product, and then ultimately Ben got excited, and he got so excited he came to me and said, hey, I have this product for infused beverages. I'd love for you to try it and consider joining the team. And at that time I said, well, I am from the show me state, Missouri, so you got to show me the product first. I got to test it, try it out. I tested it, I tried it out. I fell in love with the product. I met back with Harold, and we had a conversation, and he told me his vision and what he's trying to create. And we shared the same mission to really unlock the truth behind cannabis. Both of our communities have suffered extreme stigmatization of the plant, and we know through our science and our research that we are focused on delivering the best delivery mechanisms for cannabinoids. I knew that Harold is relentless through and perseveres all challenges just through his evolution with Ben. I trusted Ben as an advisor and mentor to me. So I said, we got a heck of a team here. Let's go infuse the world, and let's go, lead with trust, leadership, and community to make that impact.
Have you guys done several rounds of funding?
Yeah, so, we originally did a small friends and family round, and we just closed our true seed round as, 1 year, a little over 1 year's old, and have raised $7.5 million to date.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. It's a great starting point. We are focused on the technology. We started with a couple formulations, and now we have over 10 different formulations for all different types of products. So we're really deploying this capital very thoughtfully with a focus on extending our technology to a broader application set, and just really, again, unlocking the true potential that the cannabis products can have. So what you can see from us is the continuation of infused beverages, but what you're going to see more of is different cosmetic applications, serums and balms. There's also, other delivery devices that we've looked at exploring, different sublingual applications that go well beyond tinctures. So some pretty innovative stuff coming in the pipeline that I'm really, really excited to get to market.
And Austin, with the company that Vertosa, how do you guys implement or utilize technology?
At Vertosa, we are a cannabis technology company. We use a process called ultrasonication, which is essentially high energy, to break down cannabis oils and make them more dispersible in water. So what does that mean? Well, we all know that oil and water doesn't mix. So what I like to say is I turn oil into water. And then people's response is like, oh, so you think you're Jesus? I'm like, no, I'm a surface chemist, right? So it's a chemistry. It's called surface chemistry. Our founder, Chief Science Officer, Dr. Harold Hahn, he's basically breaking down the tension in oils to make it more homogeneous in water. So if you think about this in real terms, in order for you to absorb cannabis oils, you need to either break them down in the liver through metabolization and ultimately to reach your brain-blood barrier. All things that give you an effect need to get to your bloodstream. Historically, a lot of folks have a bad brownie experience is what I call it, right? They have a brownie, they eat it, they don't feel anything for 30 minutes, and then, they eat another one, and then an hour and a half later, all of a sudden they're way too hot. And the reason is because they had to wait for that brownie or that oil to be metabolized, to break down and be absorbed by your brain-blood barrier. So what we do is we apply technology, ultrasonication, and this is, very common in the traditional food space where we're creating emulsions to take that oil and make it more dispersible. So if you look at your brain-blood barrier as a chain link fence, taking that oil is like taking a big old beach ball and trying to push it through your chain link fence. It's going to bounce back every single time. So through ultrasonication, we take that beach ball, we apply high energy, we use emulsifiers. These are ingredients that are commonly used in salad dressing or ice cream. So the reason why you get that nice, even pour of salad dressing, or you get that nice smooth scoop of ice cream is because of emulsifiers. So we take that ultrasonication and emulsifiers, we break that beach ball down into a pile of gravel. So now you take a handful of that gravel and throw that through the chain link fence. All those pieces of gravel is going to pass through. So what that ultimately creates is a faster onset and greater absorption of those cannabis oils. We don't chemically change the cannabis oils at all. They are exactly the same as they came in, as they go out. But now we've just making them really, really small so that you can actually feel the effect faster. And so our goal is to mirror the experience of a traditional alcoholic type of beverage, where in 10 to 15 minutes you have an onset where you actually feel the cannabis oils, and then after an hour and a half you have an offset so that you can go on about your day. And that provides the consumer a more predictable, reliable, and consistent experience through the technology that we use to break down cannabis oils into an active ingredient.
Austin, let me ask you this. With individuals taking infused drinks, whether it's beer, it's a topical, and we've talked about at the beginning of the interview about how there are some states the regulation it's not quite passed. Federally, there are some different things happening on the federal level with hemp and cannabis. So a person that is infusing or taking an infused drink or beverage or something topical for pain, you talked about sleep, and what was the other one? It was stress. Okay. So if they are taking these infused products and they have to be tested for their job, and you're talking about it's going into the bloodstream, how is that impacting their ability to be hired or fired on a federal, state level?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a very valid concern. Working at a third-party analytical chemistry laboratory where we tested tons of products, testing is all over the place in the cannabis industry. Any cannabis operator can tell you their pains and woes about testing. But what you're speaking to is more specific to job requirements in testing for controlled substances. And so, to be clear, THC, Delta-9 THC, is one of many different cannabinoids that are found in hemp and marijuana plants. Both hemp and marijuana are cannabis plants. Delta-9 THC is what originally the DEA has labeled as a controlled substance at the federal level, and it still is today. At the state level, states that have allowed for recreational use and medical use, no longer deem Delta-9 THC as a controlled substance. It has a very clear pathway to market. CBD is another cannabinoid that is found in both hemp and marijuana, but in higher concentrations in hemp. This is cannabidiol. It's basically a non-psychoactive or reduced type of psychological effect cannabinoid that are found in all these products now. That's what the hype is about. Your employer makes a choice to include THC on their testing requirements. Again, working in a third-party analytical lab, you go in, you either do a urine, hair, or blood sample, depending upon the type of job and type of employer. The employer has to contract with the testing agency what they're going to look for, and the employer makes the choice whether to include Delta-9 THC on that analyte panel, if that's going to be something they test for. So when you take a drug test, they're looking for the controlled substances, Delta-9 THC is one of those. And ultimately, if the employer chooses to have that analyte on the test, and if you consume a cannabis product 24 hours, even sometimes a week in advance, it may show up on the test. Passing that test is really a function of how much THC is in your bloodstream at any given time. THC and other cannabinoids are fat soluble. They stay in your bloodstream longer than some of these more harder or other controlled substances that process or metabolize out much, much, much faster. In terms of excretion of or dilution of cannabinoids in the bloodstream, and ultimately what that efficacy looks like over time, that's something that we are invested heavily in exploring what that absorption rate looks like and what that metabolization rate looks like in our products. We have a few publications and research articles that we'll publish in early 2020. So I encourage your viewers and listeners to stay tuned for some of that data that we release. Until then, know your employer, know what they're testing for, and understand that THC products metabolize at a lot slower rate than other products typically do, like, say, for example, caffeine, and therefore you may be subject to test as a result. And you may want to advise to just, again, ask the employer what you're testing for.
We'd love to know what you think. Feel free to drop us an email at fr@francisrichards.com. That's fr@francisrichards.com. And thank you for that, Austin. And that's one of the things that I like to bring to the forefront, is to give our audience the information and the knowledge. And that's one of the things that you said about doing your due diligence and knowing what you're doing and what is going to happen, whatever you're, putting in your bodies. Because what my concern is we are always, and I don't like to go negative or gloom and doom, but just like we're talking about cannabis, the war on drugs, it has impacted Black and brown communities at a higher rate than any other communities. And so what I don't want people doing is going into this blind and thinking that it's one cannabis or one topical or one infusion you're always the first fired, even though, you know what I'm saying? I want people to be informed to ensure that just because it's out there, you have to do your due diligence to make sure it's not going to radically impact not only your body, your family, your income, your economics, and your community. So do your due diligence. So that's
100%.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Anything else you want to share, Austin, about the company that you're working for, or anything that we ought to know as consumers that we don't know?
To your point, Doctor, I think it's know the products that you're consuming more than anything else. Purchase these products from trusted retailers that have done the necessary third-party verification and validation of the products that you're putting into your body. The unfortunate times that we are living in, we know that there is still a thriving illicit market, and as there are products that are available to consumers that are not on retailer shelves that people are purchasing that can cause deleterious harm. And so look for and ask for test results of products that are on retailer shelves. If you're going to a state like California or Colorado where recreational use is allowed, go to the dispensary and ask for a test result. They should be able to readily provide that to you. A lot of the packaged goods have test results printed on the package itself. Quality product is what you want to be able to evaluate more accurately your experience and your response to cannabis. And so I say, continue to always ask questions, to do your due diligence, but look for products that are infused by Vertosa next time that you go into a retailer. There are many products that will have our logo or our name, on the back label. Look for that if you're in California and soon to be Colorado. And over the next few years, just be on the lookout for our logo on the back of the ingredients label, and know if you find that you have a trusted ingredient for a more reliable, consistent, and accurate cannabis experience.
And why don't you spell the name of the company that you work for, Vertosa, so if someone's listening and they want to write it down and research, and I will do it in the show notes, the information also.
Absolutely. It is spelled Vertosa is spelled Vertosa. So it's Vertosa. And again, our mission is to unlock the truth of cannabis. So the name etymology comes from vert, which is Latin for truth. Vert is French for green. So it's green truth, cannabis truth. And then osa is Spanish for the female bear. And because we get all these beautiful, rich cannabinoids from strong female plants of cannabis, we're really embracing that female nature of the cannabis industry as a whole. And as a proud California company, the bear is representative, the California bear is representative of us. So we are a cannabis company that's focused on unlocking the truth of cannabis and really embracing that strong female nature that leads to all things great that are coming out of California in the cannabis space.
And thank you, Austin, for giving us how you guys derive the name, the company name.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round before we close out. And I want to ask you some questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something that you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
All right, Austin, what was your first job?
First job was my own job, cutting grass. I had my own business and cut all my neighbors' grass for $15 for the backyard, $10 for the front yard.
Very good. If you could acquire an instant skill, what would it be?
I'd love to be able to download and know new languages just like the Matrix.
What book are you reading right now?
Book, a few of them. Delivering Happiness is the one that's standing out, the story of Zappos.
What is someone you really admire?
I really admire Jay-Z. He started from the bottom and has built himself up to be an international superstar, and I love his entire journey.
What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie is The Royal Tenenbaums.
Hit the treadmill or hit the couch?
Oh, routine, treadmill, something a little different actually, elliptical every morning, 6 o'clock.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Avocados. I'm in California. Avocados are on everything, whether it's steak, guacamole, chicken. Avocado is the cornerstone of my diet.
Austin, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience and being an amazing, innovative thinker. Why don't you give us a parting piece of advice?
Thank you, Dr. Richards. I think this has been an incredible experience with you today. Parting piece of advice is for every entrepreneur is don't take anything personally in your experience. Persevere through the startup experience with a focus on growing a sustainable company first. That's what it's going to take to make the millions or billions that you're aiming for afterwards. Is just persevere, ask questions, be resilient, and stay focused.
Thank you so much. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.